I am Nulldata Aslak Persson. I am the lead programmer of AetherForged, and I should probably do that. We've started streaming today to basically show you some of the work we've done on the code and the game itself, what we actually implemented, because you haven't really seen much of the game lately. Most of it has been art and lore and such. So yeah, how many people are we live right now? We have apparently the apparently the viewer count says 0. I'm pretty sure there's more than 0 right now. So
There's 6 people on Twitch.
alright, 6 people on Twitch. Something.
Yeah, there's at least 2.
Yeah. Alright. Oh.
But there's gonna be probably more than that watching the VOD, so...
Yes, it probably is. So, first things first. What's actually been done to the game? Well, we've had a rewrite. The last footage of the game was from Saki quite some time ago, where he demonstrated, I think it was some basic attacks, some abilities, some towers, some minions.
Jungle creatures.
Hmm?
And jungle creatures.
Oh, and jungle creatures, yes, that's right. Since then, first of all, there's happened a lot to the team. We have expanded and so on, gotten new programmers and lost programmers, but we decided early on that the code base had to be rewritten due to, like, Saki kind of just pumped out a game or the code real quick, which meant he had a great early prototype. But for a game as big as a MOBA ends up being, and a game which is so iterative, you do a lot of changes to the code constantly. It's a game that's never considered finished. The code needs to really be able to support changing it in such a way, and it should be very readable too, because a lot of hands gonna touch this code. So we decided to actually rewrite it and redesign it to make sure that the code actually had these properties. So that's what we've been working on, and Saki stepped down from lead programmer too. So what we actually have in the game now is, first of all, a lot of the things you'll see are most behind the scenes things. Like we have systems for all the stats to work, all the effects, which we're gonna test very soon. We of course have the movement system up and running, and we are starting to actually be able to add abilities and CC and such. So as you can see right now, I'm moving around here with our placeholder character Lenny and our good old friend Red Cube. The animations are currently broken. I kind of broke them even more because I was trying to fix them. But things like ranged attacks and melee attacks and all that kind of stuff is working. And hopefully very soon we'll actually start to implement actual forges. My current goal is to basically get all the features done that needs to be in place before design can really start testing their ideas and the features. So that's really what I'm working on now, is to make all the pieces fit together. So that abilities and events and all these kind of things that needs to be put together to make a forger really are working. And once we actually start testing forgers, I'll start implementing, or rather putting back the units, so the minions and the jungle monsters and the towers. And we'll start networking. We'll hopefully have networking up and running soon after the fortress is starting to be implemented, because like networking is very important for a MOBA, so it's one of those things that needs to be working early on. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been working on code-wise, which means it's kind of be a step back short term, but it's an important step to take nonetheless due to the impact it will have on the long term. So, I guess I will talk a bit about how we're actually developing the game. So, some of you might recognize this window here. We're using Unity for the game itself, which is quite a good engine, to be honest, especially for it really fits our needs because it's free to use when you're not actually earning that much on the game, so that's a great start for us. And it's relatively easy to work with. Most of the scripting is just done, or all of the scripting is done in C#. And the idea is that most of the features of the game, that means the fortress, the abilities and such, will at some point hopefully be basically just data files that our design team will be able to change and write, so they don't have to fiddle with the code. That is basically how we're in the future gonna be doing development, which means that designers don't have to code, and they can just test and pump out features at a higher rate. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you have any questions in the chat, just go ahead and ask, especially if they're programming related, because I'll be able to answer those quite well, I hope. Yeah. So, it's a bit of a shame there's not much to show visually right now, because there has been a lot of progress code-wise, but code isn't quite the visual medium to really show progress in. That's why most of the updates on the forum have been just art in some form or another.
Have you got a comparison between some of the old builds and the new ones?
A comparison between what aspects?
Just, well, code base and then features. What we've done.
Well,
What have been happening in like the last few updates?
like just in the rewrite, what I've been working on lately, basically.
Yeah.
Alright, well, just a couple of days ago there were no range basic attacks. We have those now. We have projectiles, so we can actually fire things, and that basically opens up. It's probably one of the most used things in the code base. Gonna be one of the most used things in code base because most champions don't just have melee attacks, and everything that is in a melee attack is usually one kind of projectile, or at least something, an entity in the game where that will make something happen. And generally abilities have been the addition in the new edition lately. Casting them and making sure that timings with animations go off right have been implemented, even though the animations themselves are broken. But that's just I mean, minor bump in the road. But a lot of the time spent working on the code has been more making sure that it's first of all able to support basically any feature are like in the bounds of reasonability. Yeah, any of the features that a design team might come up with without having to make a special case in the code for it. It should be just so flexible, imprintable, that no big procedure has to be done in order for us to implement that feature. Yeah, like League of Legends has for a long time have the problem with spaghetti code. They've used that term themselves, which is basically that code has become so complicated because over the years they have to add new cases to the code because new features happened, and their code base haven't been able to support that, which has made the game first of all hard to develop on. Like adding new features or changing old features have been hard, and like we've seen them just doing big rewrites because of this. Like they have to pay for that now, while we try to think of these things early on, because we know the scope of gameplay. We know we're gonna be doing a lot of different things, and we're trying to build a game engine basically that will support all of these things. So yeah.
How about tying two characters together with physics? With collision.
Pardon?
If you tie two characters together with physics.
You thinking ragdolls?
Yep.
I mean, we could do that, because
That's one of the things where you wouldn't like our design team wouldn't specifically just be able to enter some data into.
oh, that would
into
be
a
that would
character
be
class.
something we had to go into the code and add. The thing is that like there's like a couple of levels of how a feature should be can be implemented. This, for example, if they just add, let's say the design team want a skill shot that just travels in a line. If it hits somebody, it does damage over time or something like that. Is a very common and easy thing. They could probably just go into a file and say, like, in whatever format this is, like skill shot line, that distance, on hit, apply damage over time, and that should be magic damage and should do this much damage, right? Now, if design team wanted something a bit more fancy, let's say they wanted a skill shot that's zigzag, like that's a bit more special case, and we'll just add some zigzag pathing to a projectile thing, and then they will be able to use that. That's kind of the next level where we have to get bit more involved. This is basically what programming is going to be doing a lot, is adding these kind of features. And then there's the more like features that need to basically change the way the game systems work, which can be the things that really, if not expected, can require big parts of the game being rewritten, because like this thing has never been taken into consideration when developing the systems, so the game wouldn't be able to support it. And that's kind of what we're trying to avoid. We don't have to rewrite multiple like different parts of the game multiple times because there's like a feature we just never thought of, because it's usually easier to write new code than it is to change old code.
Yeah.
I think actually there were some questions in chat.
Yeah. Do you want me to read them and then you can answer them?
Sure.
Magikarp's asking, what do you do on the side in relation to coding besides working this?
Well, I have my side projects. I like to. I mean, I usually just have a project I work on for a month or two, and then go on to the next thing, side project wise, just so I have something new and fresh to play with. I like to challenge myself. Lately, I've been working on a programming language with some interesting features. like just writing a new programming language. I've been doing that while I couldn't develop on AetherForged because for some reason Unity has a build for Linux, but they can't make it work somehow. So I'm not able to develop on my Linux machine, which is like half of the time I'm actually able to develop anything. So I've worked on that, and that's like most of the time it's just this and then my side project I work on in relation to coding.
So you're doing all the features that put into their own files so you can edit and modify each one without changing the base code. And what he's asking is, you just don't want to touch the base code at all once we're starting to make characters.
Yes.
You'll just be able to call through projectiles and everything. And the only times that you'll have to do things is for abilities become so complicated that there'll have to be a special case made for them.
Yeah.
But you won't have to modify the base code to do it.
Yes. The idea is that hopefully we'll write very generic code. Like for example, a projectile. We can say like a line projectile can be very generic, and then we can make like just parameterize it so we make it more specific for each use case. So we might have, for example, if there's a forger which has a line shot which can hit a wall and then explodes, for example, then that's one special case of a projectile. And some might go through walls, some might go at one speed, one might, like, they can do a lot of things. They just share some behavior and then they get more specific, and that should be able to be done without making new code for it. You just basically put the parameters into this generic thing, and that's what we're gonna be able to hopefully do with a lot of things. And when we're not being able to do that, hopefully we just add a new kind of projectile, for example, if that's what we want to do, and not having and we still don't have to rewrite how all projectiles, like in the core behavior, work in order to make this thing. That's what we're aiming to avoid. So we always either just change parameters of a generic thing or just add a new feature. Yeah.
So, are we using some kind of grid system for places that characters can go to, or is it just collision objects which can't get moved to?
Alright, so the way collision works is basically just Unity's built-in system. I'm gonna go in here to the Unity scene.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the map itself is a mesh collider, and that means everything here is considered a solid object, but we also have what is called a navigation mesh. A navigation mesh is basically a big mesh that tells you all these places you can go and all these places you can't. Oh, I accidentally zoomed out there. And what that lets you do is then lets you place place navigators onto it. So for example, a player is a navigation mesh agent, which means he walks around the mesh, and he can calculate a path based on this navigation mesh. So when we start the game, it says, okay, all these places here, there's objects here, so just count them out of where the player can go, and whenever we click on the map, it says, okay, which is the fastest path. So that's how pathing works. So it's kind of like the grid idea isn't too far from this, except it's done basically with polygons, because this is 3D meshes, and with nodes. And it could probably be optimized further since it's a flat plane, and the navigation mesh system in Unity also takes into account if you want to jump to higher places and such, because it's made to support many different things. But that's basically how it works. So it's just a map of where you can and can't go, and based on that map, like it can find the fastest path.
Yeah. We have. That's all the questions.
Alright, great.
Would you turn me up? Apparently, I'm quiet on here a
Oh.
lot.
Oh.
Or on Discord.
Let me see what percentage you are on 136% already. Oh my.
Wow. Okay.
You know what? I guess I'll turn like my programs up louder and then turn like there we go.
I didn't get anyone else saying that I was quiet, but I am ill, so I'd usually be speaking louder than this.
I turned out up the system sounds on the stream. I'm not sure if that makes the music too loud though, because the music has to be just ever so slightly audible, if at all.
Oh no! Don't show them! Don't show them our dank memes.
Oh wait, did I show the
Alright. What else have we got to speak about then? That's been
Well,
30 minutes.
it's been what?
30 minutes.
Oh my.
Have we got minions working?
If we've got what to work?
Minions.
Like they haven't been a priority yet because they're not really what design needs here and there. They need forgers and the things forgers can do, but they wouldn't be too hard to add because I mean minions are basically just units like players, which have a specific path they walk down, and then a bit of aggro code that says, "Oh, this guy's getting attacked. I should probably focus this his attacker," and so on. So they're not back yet, but they probably won't take too long when I get to them. So yeah.
And in terms of features, what's next on the list, I guess?
Well, when I fix animations, because that's the first thing, because it's kind of silly the way it spasses out right now. Like he attacks 3 times and then fires 1 bullet. But yeah, after animations have been fixed, I'll start gluing stats together with the actions, because right now they're not really parameterized over that. So you'll start actually moving your movement speed and attacking your attack speed, and then I'll start trying to implement some of the like things for skill shots and make sure CC works. And then we should be at the point where design can actually start jumping in and testing things. And at that point, I probably want to add minions and or start the networking of the game, so we can test the multiplayer early on. So that's what's next up, really.
When we'll be showing multiplayer as soon as we've got it, because that will be a great step, I think.
Yeah.
We actually, at some point in the last code base, we managed to try and get... it never actually worked, but Zaki had it to the point where I could see his game, but I couldn't connect it. Like, it would try and connect, it would just crash my Unity out.
Yeah.
It was almost there. Almost.
So close he is. Yeah.
So close yet so far.
Yeah, he used a third-party library for that. We're probably gonna roll with their own this time, mostly because we need some specific features that API can't really provide. Because, for example, we have a lot of stats in the game, and everything, like all champions and minions have these stats, and we need to make sure everybody sees the same stats, but it's a lot of data to transfer, so we need some smart way of only updating specific stats and stuff, and you can't really do that with third-party API, or you can, but it just becomes more effort than rolling our own, to be honest. So yeah.
So yeah, the next how would you recommend someone gets into game development? And my personal, well, I guess he's asking specifically about programming. I would legitimately just say go do the Unity tutorials.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing, because if you want to learn how to just program, then my answer would be very different. But if you really want to make games, like, just download Unity and start with the tutorial, because that's probably the best way to learn how to make games, because Unity comes with a lot of great features for actually making games, and it's quite user friendly, and they have a lot of documentation and tutorials out there. So that's definitely my #1 go-to for game programmers. So.
Yeah, and if you're talking about modeling or whatever else, hop into Blender, do some tutorials for that. There's a hell of a lot more you need to use in terms of programs, but probably Blender and learning how to animate. If you can just get a model from base model, animating it with like a run animation, and then putting it into Unity, and then learning the animation scripting language that they use in Unity. That's probably a big step as well. And then from there you could branch out to do sculpting, base, texturing, whatever else.
Yeah.
We don't have any more questions, but what did we manage to get Rhyhorn in at all?
I haven't seen anything from him other than the thing posted.
Yeah, I'll get. I'm gonna try and get my Unity up to date because I've been slacking with that. I've been ill. I'll probably try and go and put him in.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over how we're doing animations to teach me as well as show people how we're doing it?
Oh, are you talking about the animative thing?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure how.
We just have one like animation script for all forgers, isn't it?
I think so. The thing is, I'm not sure how much we're gonna use this, like all the features this provides, because like most of our animations are used very much for timing, and the system kinda it screws a bit with timing, because it's all about transitions and doing like dynamic animations based on different variables, different values, which is great for some things, but it kinda screws with all the timing features we're gonna be using. So currently how animations are done is simply we play an animation, and then when it's done we do a thing, and then we jump back to the standard animation, or just the next one, really. If it actually worked, but that's I mean.
Yeah, I know that you can do, because what we were planning on doing is the same thing as what Donga had, where you go from, depending on your movement speed, you go from walk to run to sprint.
Alright.
If you had a boost or something. And you can do that, as far as I know, with basically tying movement speed value to a range, pretty much, and you can set the range. So I do 3 animations, and it blends them.
Oh yeah.
And then, depending on that movement value is where it blends. But yeah, for attack animations and that.
Yeah, like doing the transition thing should be relatively easy, as long as each footprint and such are synced up, like they follow the same beat, I assume, because otherwise blending would be weird. If in one position the leg is stretched and the other one it's not, it kind of tries to do a midway thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that would definitely work. So that's one place where this animation system actually would come into use.
I think
And what?
Dongate did. It didn't blend. Dongate didn't blend the animations as far as I can remember.
It just
It just
basically,
had two animations, and when you reach a threshold, it swapped.
yeah. So just wasn't movement speed also tied to the level in Dongate?
I think you got bonus haste, which increased your movement speed, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it was something like you get a certain percent haste each level, and for each one haste you get 0.4 movement speed. I think. Not quite sure, but yeah. But you can definitely like that wouldn't mess with any of the timings at all, because that's a,
Visual thing.
yes, it's just a purely aesthetic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we do get to testing our multiplayer environment, don't expect the animations to be polished at that point because they will be. I'm guessing they're going to look a bit glitchy.
Well, I kind of need to get animations fixed right now because I'm kind of dependent on the timings. So, but they should be fixed soon because that's what I'm actually working on right now. So yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?